Daniel was a young man who always tried to do the right thing. He was known among his friends and family as someone kind and helpful. He wasn't rich or famous, but he had a good heart. Daniel had grown up in a small town where everyone knew each other, and he liked to feel useful. One of the things he enjoyed most was helping people who needed support. One day, Daniel decided to volunteer at a local nursing home. He had heard from a friend that the place needed extra hands to care for elderly people. Many of the residents there were lonely or sick, and Daniel thought he could make a difference. He wanted to give his time to those who often felt forgotten by the world, so he signed up without hesitation. On his first day, Daniel felt nervous. He was not sure what to expect, but he hoped he would be able to bring some comfort to the people there. When he arrived, a kind nurse introduced him to the staff and showed him around. The building was old but clean. The walls were decorated with pictures of flowers and happy moments from the past. Daniel could hear soft music playing in the background, and the smell of fresh coffee filled the air. Soon, a staff member handed Daniel a list of the people he would be helping. One name caught his attention: Mr. Thompson. The man was in a small room at the end of the hallway. Daniel was told that Mr. Thompson was very sick and didn't talk much. Many people found him difficult to approach because he kept to himself and rarely smiled. Daniel felt curious but did not want to judge. He believed everyone deserved kindness, especially those who seemed sad or lonely. When he entered Mr. Thompson's room, he saw an old man sitting in a wheelchair, staring out the window. His face was tired and wrinkled, and his eyes looked heavy with years of pain and silence. The room was simple, with a few personal items like a clock, some books, and a faded blanket. Daniel greeted him softly. "Hello, Mr. Thompson. My name is Daniel. I will be here to help you." The old man did not respond. He looked at Daniel for a moment, but then turned his head away. Daniel didn't feel upset. Instead, he smiled gently and said, "That's okay. You don't have to talk if you don't want to." From that moment on, Daniel visited Mr. Thompson every day. At first, the old man remained quiet and distant. He rarely said more than a few words, and sometimes he seemed to ignore Daniel altogether. But Daniel kept coming back. He helped him eat, washed his face carefully, and made sure he was comfortable. Sometimes Daniel would read books aloud or play soft music, hoping it would bring some peace. Over time, something started to change. One afternoon, as Daniel was helping Mr. Thompson with his meal, the old man suddenly looked at him and whispered, "Thank you." It was the first time Mr. Thompson spoke to Daniel. Daniel's heart warmed. He knew that even small words could mean a lot to someone who felt forgotten. Encouraged, Daniel continued to be patient and kind. He learned that Mr. Thompson had trouble remembering things sometimes, but he also noticed moments when the old man's eyes would shine with a little light. Those moments gave Daniel hope. One day, Daniel brought a photo album to show Mr. Thompson. He flipped through the pages slowly, pointing at pictures of nature, animals, and smiling people. To Daniel's surprise, Mr. Thompson reached out and touched a photo gently. It was a picture of a young man holding a child. Daniel asked softly, "Who are they?" Mr. Thompson looked at the photo and then looked away quickly. He didn't answer. Daniel didn't press him. He understood that some memories were difficult to talk about, but this small gesture told him that the photo was important. Day by day, Daniel and Mr. Thompson grew closer in a quiet way. The old man, who once seemed cold and distant, began to trust Daniel a little more. Sometimes, when no one else was around, Mr. Thompson would share small stories from his past, stories of places he had lived, jobs he once did, and people he once knew. Daniel listened carefully, feeling honored that Mr. Thompson chose to share these moments with him. He didn't judge or ask too many questions, he just listened, offering his presence and respect. Daniel often wondered about Mr. Thompson's life. Who was he before coming to the nursing home? Why did he seem so lonely? And most of all, why did he seem to hold a sadness deep inside? Despite these questions, Daniel never gave up on caring for the old man. He believed that everyone deserved love and kindness, no matter their past, and he was determined to be there for Mr. Thompson in his last days. making sure he was not alone. 1. Evening, as the sun was setting and the sky turned soft pink, Daniel sat by Mr. Thompson's side. The old man looked peaceful but tired. Daniel held his hand gently, feeling the thin skin and fragile bones. Mr. Thompson whispered, "You are a good person, Daniel." Those words stayed with Daniel long after. He realized that sometimes the greatest gift we can give someone is simply our care and presence. In that quiet room, two strangers had found a connection. And even though Daniel did not yet know the full story of Mr. Thompson's life, he knew that their time together mattered. It was the start of a journey neither of them could have predicted, one that would change both their lives forever. Days turned into weeks, and Daniel continued to visit Mr. Thompson at the nursing home. Every time he entered the small room, Daniel felt a little more connected to the old man. Although Mr. Thompson still didn't talk much, the silence between them was no longer uncomfortable. It was a quiet understanding, a shared space where words were not always needed. Daniel learned that caring for someone like Mr. Thompson was not easy. The old man's body was weak, and sometimes he had trouble breathing. There were moments when he seemed confused, forgetting where he was or what time it was. Daniel stayed patient and calm, knowing that his kindness made a difference even if Mr. Thompson could not always show it. The routine of their days became important. Daniel would help him wake up in the morning, wash his face, brush his thin hair, and help him eat breakfast. They would sit near the window where the sun shone warmly, and Daniel would talk quietly about the world outside. He told stories about children playing in the park, birds singing, and flowers blooming. Sometimes, Mr. Thompson listened closely, his eyes following Daniel's words. One afternoon, Daniel brought a small plant into the room. It was a green fern with soft leaves, and Daniel carefully placed it on the windowsill. "I thought you might like something alive here," he said with a smile. Mr. Thompson looked at the plant for a long moment. Then, for the first time, he reached out and touched a leaf gently. It was a small gesture, but to Daniel it meant a lot. It was as if Mr. Thompson was beginning to care about something again. Daniel kept talking to him about simple things, weather, seasons, and even stories from his own life. He told Mr. Thompson about his family and his dreams, hoping the old man would feel less alone. Sometimes Mr. Thompson would nod or smile faintly, showing that he was listening. One day, as Daniel was helping him with lunch, Mr. Thompson suddenly asked a question. His voice was weak but clear. "Do you believe people can change?" Daniel was surprised but pleased to hear him speak. "Yes," he answered. "I believe people can always change if they want to." Mr. Thompson looked at him thoughtfully. "Good," he said quietly. "I have made many mistakes in my life. Sometimes, I wonder if I can ever make things right." Daniel nodded, feeling a deep sadness in the old man's words. He didn't ask what mistakes Mr. Thompson meant. Instead, he held his hand and said, "It's never too late to try." After that day, Mr. Thompson seemed to open up a little more. He shared stories about his younger days, about places he had traveled and jobs he had done. His voice was soft but filled with memories. Daniel listened carefully, realizing that beneath the quiet and sadness was a man who had lived a full life, one with joys, regrets, and secrets. The old man told Daniel about a small town where he grew up, about his childhood friends, and about a woman he once loved deeply. Daniel was moved by the tenderness in these memories. He began to feel that he was getting to know a side of Mr. Thompson few others had seen. One afternoon, Mr. Thompson surprised Daniel by asking him about his own life. "Tell me about you, Daniel," he said. "What do you want to do with your life?" Daniel smiled and shared his dreams of helping people, of making a difference in the world. He talked about his hopes to travel one day, to learn new things, and to always be kind to others. Mr. Thompson listened quietly, then said, "You are a good man. I am glad you are here with me." These words touched Daniel deeply. He realized that the old man's trust was growing, even if it was slow and fragile. The connection between them was no longer one-sided. It was becoming a friendship, a gentle bond formed by patience, care, and understanding. Despite this growing closeness, Daniel still sensed that there was a part of Mr. Thompson's past that remained hidden. Sometimes the old man's eyes would cloud over with sadness and he would fall silent for long minutes. Daniel respected these moments, knowing that some wounds run deep and take time to heal. One rainy day, Daniel found Mr. Thompson staring out the window at the gray sky. The old man's voice was softer than usual as he said, "I have lived a long time, but I fear I have not made peace with everything." Daniel sat beside him, holding his hand gently. "Maybe talking about it can help," he said softly. Mr. Thompson nodded but did not say more. Daniel knew that when the old man was ready, he would share his story. Meanwhile, Daniel made sure to bring little comforts to Mr. Thompson's days. He brought warm blankets on cold nights, favorite snacks that the old man liked, and sometimes soft music from long ago. These small acts brought a sense of peace to the room. One evening, as Daniel was about to leave, Mr. Thompson grabbed his hand and whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on me." Daniel smiled warmly. "I'm here for you no matter what." This simple promise meant the world to both of them. As the weeks passed, Daniel's visits became the highlight of Mr. Thompson's days. The old man looked forward to the company, and Daniel found purpose in his care. Neither of them spoke much about the future, but both knew their time together was precious. Daniel began to notice changes in Mr. Thompson's health. The old man grew weaker, and some days were harder than others. But despite the challenges, Daniel's commitment never wavered. He stayed by Mr. Thompson's side, offering comfort, hope, and friendship. Their bond was a quiet light in the old man's final chapter, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, kindness could bring warmth and healing. And so Daniel and Mr. Thompson's story continued, one day at a time, filled with small acts of love and the growing hope that no one is truly alone when someone cares. One quiet morning, Daniel noticed that Mr. Thompson was not his usual self. The old man looked weaker and his breathing was shallow and slow. Daniel's heart sank as he realized that Mr. Thompson's health was getting worse. He quickly called a nurse to help, and soon Mr. Thompson was taken to the hospital for urgent care. Daniel stayed by the old man's side during the hospital visit. He sat quietly, holding Mr. Thompson's hand and hoping for the best. The doctor said that Mr. Thompson was very sick and would need careful treatment. Daniel felt a deep sadness knowing that the days ahead might be very hard for both of them. While Mr. Thompson was in the hospital, Daniel had time to think. He wanted to understand more about the old man's life. He remembered the photo album they had looked at together and the stories Mr. Thompson had shared. There were still many questions Daniel wished he could ask. One afternoon, Daniel asked the nursing home staff if there was anything else they could tell him about Mr. Thompson's past. The staff were kind and helpful, and after some searching, they gave Daniel a small box that belonged to Mr. Thompson. Inside, Daniel found some old letters, a faded photograph, and a few personal documents. Daniel looked at the photograph carefully. It showed a young man standing with a small boy on his lap. The boy had bright eyes and a shy smile. Daniel's heart began to race as he realized the boy looked familiar, almost like a younger version of himself. He opened one of the letters and started reading. The letter was written many years ago and it spoke about regret and lost chances. It was from Mr. Thompson, written to a woman he once loved but never saw again. The words were full of sadness, but also hope for forgiveness. Daniel's mind was filled with questions. Could this old man really be connected to him in a way he had never known? The thought was both painful and strange. He had grown up without knowing his father, and the idea that Mr. Thompson might be that man shocked him. Daniel took a deep breath and decided to find out more. He asked the nursing home staff for help again, and they contacted some distant relatives of Mr. Thompson. Through their conversations, Daniel learned that Mr. Thompson had a son who disappeared many years ago. The family had lost contact and no one knew where the son was. Daniel's heart beat faster. Could he be the son? Could this man he had cared for every day be the father he never knew? He thought back to all the times he had spent with Mr. Thompson, the quiet moments, the stories, the small signs of regret in the old man's eyes. It all started to make sense, but Daniel was not sure how to face the truth. One afternoon, Daniel returned to the hospital to see Mr. Thompson. The old man was resting, his eyes closed, but when Daniel spoke softly, he opened his eyes and looked at him. Daniel took a deep breath and said, "Mr. Thompson, I found some things that belong to you. Letters, photos. I think we have something important to talk about." The old man looked at him carefully, his eyes filled with tiredness but also recognition. You have questions," he whispered. Daniel nodded. "Yes. I believe you are my father." Mr. Thompson's face changed. For a moment, there was surprise, then sadness, then something like relief. He reached out and took Daniel's hand weakly. "It is true," he said softly. "I am your father. I left you long ago, and I have lived with that pain every day." Tears came to Daniel's eyes. He felt a mix of emotions, hurt, anger, but also a deep longing to understand and forgive. "Why did you leave?" Daniel asked, quietly. Mr. Thompson sighed. "I was young and afraid. I made mistakes that I can never take back. I thought I was protecting you by staying away, but I see now that I only caused more pain." Daniel listened, feeling the weight of those words. He thought about the years he had spent without a father, the questions he had never been able to ask. But in that moment, looking at the old man's face, Daniel saw something else. Remorse, hope, and a wish to make things right. They talked for a long time, sharing stories and memories. Mr. Thompson apologized for the past, and Daniel opened his heart to forgiveness. It was not easy, but it was healing. As the days passed, their bond grew stronger. Daniel stayed by Mr. Thompson's side, holding his hand, offering comfort and love. The old man, who once seemed so distant, now smiled softly when Daniel was near. Daniel realized that sometimes life brings unexpected chances for healing and connection. He was grateful for the time they had left together, and for the truth that had finally come to light. Though Mr. Thompson's days were limited, their relationship was no longer defined by the past but by the care and understanding they shared in the present. After the truth came out, Daniel felt many emotions at once. There was still some pain in his heart, but there was also peace. Peace from finally knowing where he came from. For so many years, he had asked himself why his father was not there. He had wondered if he had done something wrong or if his father just didn't care. Now, hearing the truth directly from Mr. Thompson, he understood things in a new way. Mr. Thompson, too, seemed changed. He was still weak, still tired, but now there was a light in his eyes. For years, he had carried a heavy weight in his heart. He never thought he would get the chance to meet his son again, and now that Daniel was right there beside him, caring, for him every day it felt like a second chance, something he had never dreamed possible. Daniel continued visiting him daily. Their bond grew stronger, and they spent long hours talking, about life, about choices, about forgiveness. Mr. Thompson told Daniel about his younger days, the mistakes he made, and the regrets he lived with. He shared how he had fallen in love with Daniel's mother but had left out of fear, not knowing how to be a father. "I thought I would only make things worse," Mr. Thompson said one day, his voice shaking. "So I ran. And I've paid for it every day since." Daniel listened quietly, holding back his own tears. "You did leave," he said gently. "But I'm here now. We can't change the past, but we can make the most of the time we have left." Those words meant more to Mr. Thompson than Daniel could ever know. Every visit became more special. Daniel brought old photos and memories to share. He even brought a picture of his mother. When Mr. Thompson saw it, he smiled sadly. "She was kind," he said softly. "You have her eyes." Daniel didn't say anything right away. He just nodded, letting his father hold the photo in his hands for a while. It was a quiet moment, full of emotions that words could not fully express. As the days went by, the doctors explained that Mr. Thompson's time was short. His body was growing weaker, and there wasn't much more they could do. Daniel took the news with strength even though it hurt deeply. He made sure Mr. Thompson was never alone. If he couldn't be there during the night, he would come first thing in the morning. He helped with his medicine, talked with the nurses, and brought warm food when possible. One morning, Daniel arrived and found Mr. Thompson looking out the window. The sun was rising, painting the sky with soft colors of orange and pink. "It's a beautiful morning," Mr. Thompson said, smiling. Daniel pulled up a chair beside him. "Yes, it is." They sat quietly for a while. Then Mr. Thompson spoke, again. "I used to imagine what kind of man my son would grow up to be. I never thought I'd get the chance to meet him. And now, here you are." Daniel smiled. "I think we were meant to meet again even if it happened late." Mr. Thompson nodded. "You're a better man than I ever was." Daniel didn't agree or disagree. He simply said, "We all walk different paths. What matters is how we finish the journey." Later that day, Daniel brought a small notebook and pen. He had an idea. "I thought maybe you'd like to write something, anything you want to say, maybe for me or just for yourself." Mr. Thompson took the notebook with trembling hands. "Thank you," he whispered. "There are some things I want to leave behind." For the next few days, Mr. Thompson wrote when he had the strength. Short letters, thoughts, memories, some happy, some full of regret. Daniel didn't ask to read them, not yet. He wanted his father to write freely, from the heart. During this time, something beautiful happened. The nurses and other staff noticed the change in Mr. Thompson. He smiled more. He talked more. He even asked about others in the nursing home. People were surprised. The man who once sat alone and silent now had a glow of peace around him. It wasn't medicine that changed him. It was love. It was forgiveness. It was the healing power of connection. One evening, as Daniel sat beside him reading from a book, Mr. Thompson placed a hand on his arm. "Daniel," he said slowly, "you gave me something I never thought I deserved, a second chance. You gave me love when I had done nothing to earn it." Daniel looked at him, his eyes gentle. "Sometimes love doesn't have to be earned. Sometimes it's just given. Because that's what we need." Mr. Thompson squeezed his hand lightly. "I will leave this world with a full heart. Not because my life was perfect, but because you gave me peace." Daniel stayed with him that night. He didn't want to miss a moment. They talked until Mr. Thompson grew too tired to speak. Then Daniel simply sat there watching his father rest, feeling a mix of sadness and thankfulness. He thought about how this journey had started with him just wanting to help an old man in a wheelchair. And now that old man turned out to be his father, the one person he had missed all his life. Daniel realized that life is full of surprises, some painful, some healing. But the most important thing is how we respond to them. He had chosen love. And in doing so, he had brought peace to a man who thought he was beyond saving. The days after Mr. Thompson's health began to fade more quickly were some of the hardest Daniel had ever faced. He stayed close to the old man, holding his hand and speaking softly, hoping to bring comfort in those quiet moments. Though the sickness was taking its toll, the peace between them was stronger than ever. One afternoon, as the sun poured through the window, Mr. Thompson looked at Daniel with tired eyes. "I'm glad you came into my life," he said softly. "You gave me something I thought I lost forever: family, love, and forgiveness." Daniel smiled through his tears. "I'm grateful for you too. You taught me so much about strength and kindness." They both understood that their time together was limited, but neither wanted to think about goodbyes just yet. Instead, they focused on making each day meaningful. Daniel helped Mr. Thompson remember happy times. He read aloud from the notebook his father had written in, the stories, memories, and lessons shared on paper. Some were funny, others sad, but all showed the depth of a man who had lived a complicated life with honesty. One day, Daniel asked if he could read one of the letters aloud. Mr. Thompson nodded quietly and Daniel began. The letter spoke of hope for a better future, for both of them, and expressed a wish that Daniel would always live with courage and kindness. It ended with a simple message. I am proud to be your father. Hearing those words aloud made Daniel's heart swell. He felt a warmth that washed away old pain and replaced it with love. As days passed, Daniel arranged for a few close friends of Mr. Thompson's to visit. They came with smiles and stories, sharing laughter and tears. It was a small reunion, full of memories and healing for everyone involved. Daniel saw the joy in his father's eyes, something he hadn't seen in years. One evening, as Daniel sat by his father's bedside, Mr. Thompson whispered, "Thank you for giving me the chance to be a father, even if it was late." Daniel took his hand gently. "You will always be my father, that doesn't change." Mr. Thompson's breathing grew slower, and Daniel stayed close, whispering words of love and comfort. When Mr. Thompson passed away peacefully that night, Daniel felt a deep sorrow but also a sense of peace. He had been there until the very end, holding the hand of the man who was once a stranger, then became a father, and finally a friend. In the days that followed, Daniel took time to grieve and reflect. The experience had changed him deeply. He had learned about forgiveness, not only for others but also for himself. He had learned that sometimes people make mistakes, but those mistakes don't define who they are forever. Daniel also realized the power of kindness and care. His decision to help an old man in need had led him to discover a truth he never expected. It taught him that even in difficult situations, compassion can open doors and heal old wounds. He visited the nursing home one last time before moving forward with his life. He thanked the staff for their care and shared stories about Mr. Thompson's final days. The nurses told him how much his visits had brightened the old man's life, and Daniel smiled, feeling proud. Daniel kept the notebook with him always. It was a reminder of his father's journey and their time together. Sometimes he would read the letters when he needed strength or comfort. With time, Daniel found new purpose. He wanted to help others who felt alone or forgotten. Inspired by his experience, he began volunteering at the nursing home, offering companionship and care to other elderly people. He knew firsthand how much a simple act of kindness could change a life. Daniel also started speaking about his story, sharing the lessons he learned about forgiveness, hope, and the importance of never giving up on people. His story touched many hearts and inspired others to reach out and connect with those around them. Though the pain of losing his father was still there, Daniel found healing in the memories they created and the love they shared. He understood that life's true meaning comes from the bonds we build and the kindness we show. One quiet evening, Daniel stood outside looking at the stars. He felt a gentle peace in his heart, a feeling that his father was watching over him, proud of the man he had become. And in that moment, Daniel knew that sometimes the hardest journeys lead to the most beautiful endings.